Thank you for watching this Last Mile Profits video.
Is the termination of mail delivery in Denmark a sign of things to come? Keep watching to find out more.
Last Mile Profits is brought to you by Parcel Pending by Quadient.
Gary, I know it's something that I guess should have thought that will come someday, but I have to say when it actually happened, I was a bit shocked. So PostNord in Denmark in 2026 is going to stop delivering traditional mail. How about that?
It is a phenomenon, isn't it? The Nordics are one of those areas, particularly with lockers and stuff, where adoption is so much further ahead than kind of more southerly, westerly bits of Europe. I'm thinking about the UK and whatever else. But to be that far ahead in the evolution of the decline of mail, where you can actually see a date, an actual date, where you just go, nobody wants mail, no one's going to get mail delivered to their house anymore, is a revolution to my mind.
To be fair, as far as I understand, priority mail et al. Will continue to be delivered, but the bulk of non-priority traditional mail that goes, and effectively with the USO. And the question I've got, Gary, looking at what's happening throughout Europe, because you've got several countries where Spain, Poland, others, you're hearing of layoffs, big issues, and we've discussed this before. The USO in its current form, unless the government of a given country is prepared to really put a fistful of, I was going to say dollars, but I think now I should say euros, probably given recent international political developments. It's going to have to go this way, isn't it?
It will, but it's the consequences for other bits of the business that strike me. So with a lot of markets where there's a lot of home mail delivered, the post tends to hang on to parcels that look a bit like letters. So it's sub 250 grams, the 1 centimetre, 2 centimetre thick, large letter format, small packet, call it what you will. That stuff that can go in the post bag alongside the letters. It's the fact that the letters are in there as well that gives them that cost advantage. No one can get near Royal Mail's, packet pricing really, because they're coming up your path every day with letters, and there is not cross-subsidy, I don't think that's the right thing, but there is consolidation, natural consolidation between letters, large letters, small packets, thick envelopes, whatever, call it what have you. And I know that if you look at a truck full of parcels, there might be 2,000, 4,000, 6,000 parcels in there. And if you look at what that is in terms of revenue, there might be £10,000 worth of shipments of postage cost or shipping cost in there. A truck full of letters is hundreds of thousands of pounds of revenue. They are far more profitable in many ways. So I can't help thinking that if you pulled all the letter volume out of some posts, all of their last mile advantage evaporates immediately. And what are they left with?
But with one caveat, Gary, and I think that I did some work in the past, and first of all, I couldn't share it if I did remember the details, but I don't anyway, thank God. But in the Nordics particularly, I think Denmark was the worst affected. Those letters are not there. So it's a little bit like discussing something that was once there and was great and wonderful with a reality that's very different. Of course, I think the Nordics are a very specific market, but we all know this. The writing's on the wall, letters are in decline, there'll be fewer and fewer. So in a way, there is no choice. The question is, in a way, how do we repurpose the guys and girls, the posties, who were delivering the letters, I guess, and how can we find a model? Because I think, this becomes quite a complicated topic, because today, I think we've moved away. When I still worked for La Poste, they had something called a fonctionnaire. Do you know what a fonctionnaire is?
It sounds like a 1930s gadget you'd have in your kitchen, but I'm guessing
it's not. Fonctionnaire, Gary, is literally, it's a nice word for a civil servant. But the posties were fonctionnaires, and you actually, believe it or not, couldn't fire them. They were like a government official that was untouchable. That's changed today, but still, it's a bit of a political hotcake. What do you do? And not just political, because I think morally, how do you find there's a whole lot of people who've been working hard all their lives, and suddenly the business has changed. The model with which they were employed traditionally isn't necessarily as relevant to today's last mile, and it's certainly not relevant to what the competition are doing. The letters have gone, so it becomes a much more complicated topic, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and when you start to argue for the reduction in the USOs, we haven't got enough mail to go up every path every day. we want to go to 3 days a week, or we want to stop weekends, or we want to stop this, we stop that, stop the other. And in the UK as well, you've got a zero compulsory redundancy policy that's been in place with Royal Mail postage for a very, very long time. And Krasinski has said he'll honour it as well. So you've got 120,000 people looking to do the same amount of work, and the mail volume is billions of items a year less. So you can price your way out of some of that. You can start charging more to keep the P&L looking healthy, so you can carry on paying postmen. But eventually, pull that lever too hard, and you accelerate the decline in volume.
Exactly, it's a highway to hell, because if letters are in decline and you increase the price, so if you think about it, the only way that you can do it is either governments, i.e. Joe Public, are going to have to pay a lot of money to maintain a service that's going to be in decline anyway, and that cost will be higher and higher, or you have to find new ways. We've discussed this before, Gary. My personal view is the only way to deal with this is to actually make the USO work with out-of-home delivery, because then the costs are completely different, subject, of course, to some kind of agreement with the trade unions, allowing the payment model to be suitable for out-of-home, which is another big question mark.
Yeah, we're 7 minutes into a 7-minute video, and I think we're just starting this discussion. You have to be brave. The UK doesn't mine coal anymore. It's a terrible moment when Margaret Thatcher closed all the coal mines, and there was a national miners' strike, and it was a terrible moment in our history, but it had to stop. There are lots of industries that have had a fantastic history and leave a wonderful legacy, but stop being relevant. And it's really brave to look at the Danes and go, actually, you've seen that that's coming, and you've decided to put a date on it in advance. And that's what's so kind of inspiring, frightening, scary, intimidating, and what have you, because I think other markets are going to be looking at it. Other posts are going to be looking at it and going, if I track my trajectory, if I track my year-on-year decline, and the tipping point where I have to put the cost up so much that it's almost the same to drive over to the person's house with the letter as it is to buy the stamp. $185 for a first-class stamp in the UK, that's a lot of money for a sheet of paper to move across the country compared to where it was 20 years ago. So it's a scary moment, but I think it's going to make a lot of people think long and hard about what they do next.
I think, Gary, this is one we should come back to. Let's see how the Danes deal with it, what the final model is. But I agree with you. Other countries are going to have to start thinking now, how are we going to deal with this situation? So I think this is definitely a topic we should come back to. But please, this is a classic one where I think it would be really great to have our viewers' comments, suggestions, because I don't think there's any easy way out. Every option is difficult, which is the best of a series of difficult options.
Exactly. Maybe we should run one of your famous sweepstakes on who's next. Who's the next country to announce the cessation of standard letter mail?
Well, I'm cautiously optimistic it's going to be somewhere in the Nordics. That's my best bet. Anyway, maybe viewers will have another opinion. Gary, as usual, great talking, and I think this is one we're going to have to come back to.
Absolutely. It's a great subject. Thank you.